Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
If you've been listening to our podcast, you're like, man, I love what you guys are talking about. I want to build passive income through one of these 5 pillars that you're talking about, but how do I do it? Stallion, tell them. It is so easy.
So easy that we created the longest URL possible, so you may want to write this down, freecall.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. Go to freecall.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com and you can set up your call with one of us. We're excited to talk to you. Welcome. This is the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Your host, Joey, the Italian Stallion Murray, joined, as always, by Russ, the Idea Guy Morgan. Russ, we are all in the pursuit of wealth without Wall Street. Help us understand how to find it.
Well, first, you got to be in control, right? I mean, the key to this podcast, and I think any podcast, is learning. And that is what we believe Wealth Without Wall Street starts with, is educating our minds, getting ourselves prepared to break free of the mindset that we have to follow Wall Street from the beginning.
I mean, how many times do we have to understand what we've already believed that was wrong to begin with? The Wall Street mindset has literally embedded every part of what we know about finance.
I love the question that was asked to me by a financial mentor of mine. He would say, if what you thought to be true turned out not to be true, when would you want to know?
I say today. It starts today.
So if this is the first episode that you've listened to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, and because you were referred by a friend, another listener, someone else who is actually practicing what we're preaching, then we want to be able to, in this episode, share with you what we believe are foundational truths. We have 5 pillars. We're going to lay those out today that we believe is what helping you break free from Wall Street and create financial independence.
Okay, so if you've had the thought, I need to be more in control, that's a good thought.
Yeah.
Wall Street's going to tell you to do the opposite, like give up control of your money for as long as possible and don't ask any questions.
Yeah. If you've thought, really, I can't put my finger on it, but what I'm doing just doesn't seem to be getting me ahead. I'm putting money into these accounts, but really, is it going up by more than what I'm putting in it? Because over the long haul, it doesn't seem like it.
Right. If you're thinking, okay, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not seeing anybody else around me getting ahead either. So obviously the herd is going the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, what about the fact if you're saying, hey, I'm paying more in taxes than ever, but I just listened to this episode that you did that said that we're actually in the lowest tax rates in the history of our country and that I should be very nervous about where they're going in the future. You want to know more.
That's right. So first and foremost, we got to make sure that you're in the right place. If you've had those thoughts, you are in the right place. And we're going to uncover for you the journey that Russ and I have been on from for the last 15 years?
Yeah, I think the purpose, as you'll hear behind this, is that this is something that we're practicing personally. And we got on this podcast to share with you, the listener, how to help you on a daily, weekly basis. And there's some things out there that we don't understand, and we're going to be learning those with you. But there's a lot of these financial things that we've experienced, and I like to refer to those as lessons learned. And by the way, this is January 2019, 2018, Joey. I had a few lessons I learned.
No doubt, didn't we all? So one of those things I will go ahead and tell you is if you've been experiencing the roller coaster that is, I should say the emotional roller coaster that is the stock market, you're going to want to listen further on this because we did an episode on that, right? Emotional investing, the stock market roller coaster. If you missed that one, go back and listen to it. We definitely uncover it. But 2018 was definitely one of those years.
Oh, well, you think about it. We had the market just go from nowhere in January to spiking in July and then free following through November, December. And how does that affect you, Joey? When I see it, it goes into we are wanting to potentially invest in other things or use our money for other things, but emotionally we're unable to do it because we're afraid to sell because of the market and where it is.
By the way, when is the right time to sell? And when you're on a roller coaster, when it's at the top?
Yeah, well,
you can't lose.
You want to sell at the top. That's what we're taught, right? The best way to make money in the market is buy when it's low, sell when it's high. But who knows when it's at its peak? Who knows when it's at its low?
The only time you know is when it's past.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to get you off of the roller coaster with Wealth Without Wall Street.
Well, because that's not freedom. You're always second guessing yourself in that environment and you have little or no control. So you'll hear that within our podcast. The theme that we believe that creates an environment of wealth, something that you can create, something you can pass along, starts with control.
Absolutely. Increase control, lower the risk.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that. Okay. Now, we've talked about you and I are on this journey as well. Why? Because you woke up one day, 2008, and you said, I don't want to be the bearer of this kind of bad news.
Well, I could not. After the market crashed in late 2008, and I was a certified financial planner, I'm there, people looking to me to be their financial guru, right? I'm the one that's supposed to be helping them, guide them along this path so they can reach financial freedom or independence or retirement or whatever the word they were wanting to use at that point in time. But I had no clue as what was going on. I had no understanding of why the market just dropped 35, 40%. And even worse, Joey, I had no idea what was going to keep it from happening again. That's not a good feeling for me, who I'm supposed to be closer to it than you are.
That's right. So obviously you had your motivation for seeking an alternative to Wall Street. And if you're listening to this podcast, you have your own motivation. I don't know what it is, but hopefully today we're going to lay out the plan for you. Okay, so we've been talking about these pillars, the 5 pillars. Let's break them down. Number 1 is cash flow. Okay. Yeah. When I say cash flow, what does that mean?
Well, I think most people are going to think budgeting, which is like, okay, what financial professional out there is not telling somebody that they need to budget more? Sure. Look, we're going to start there. We're going to make sure you have the tools and things needed. But most of us tend to make lots of money, but we tend to spend all of it.
Isn't that the problem? Like holding on to it, not necessarily making it.
Yeah, it has been. And for me, and it is a lot for the entrepreneurs that we talk to on a daily basis, is that the demand of the things around us grow to equal the supply of money that we've created. And it means that we need to have systems and processes in place that can help us avoid the problem of making it but never having any of it left over.
Okay, if you're like me right now, your head is going up and down, up and down. Yep, done that, been there. What about paying too much in taxes? That's when we talk about cash flow. That's huge.
Yeah, well, taxes. How about paying off debts? If you ever had a debt, you probably try to find a way to get rid of it. The strategies that we see, though, given by Wall Street, again, the Wall Street mindset tells us the way that we should pay taxes is to postpone them. The way we should pay debts is with as much of our cash as we possibly can. But there's so many pitfalls in those two things that we need to uncover, and we need to create better strategies. Otherwise, it's going to end up costing us more.
Well, at the baseline of all those strategies, what do they go in the face of? They go in the face of what we know to be true, but we act the opposite, right? We have limited time for our money to grow on our behalf.
Well, you think about this. Just take a very simple example. Let's say you were making $100,000 and you were saving 5%, which, by the way, puts you in the top 50 percentile of people out there.
Absolutely.
More than not are not saving at least 5% of their income. So that means you're spending 95% of every dollar you bring in. Well, if you're focused on the Wall Street mindset, you're saying, okay, I've got this extra $5,000. I'm going to try to put it in the market. Ooh, let's see if I can get my 10% return. I've made $500 on my $5,000.
Woohoo! Congratulations.
Woo! Boy, bang, right? You fill up the gas tank. Well, today you might be able to fill it up 10 times. But that's not really making a difference. But through strategies, if we have a process, if we could just reduce the amount of money going away from us by 1%, Joey. 1% on the $95,000, that's $950. Think about that. Think about what a change that focus is. We don't have to put that dollar at risk at all. And we can make more, almost double what we could with our regular savings and putting it at high risk.
Okay. So you're hearing this, you're saying, okay, sign me up. I like that idea. Forget this whole hope for the 10% thing. It ain't going to happen. Okay. This is what we're about. At Wealth Without Wall Street, we have tools that will help you track these things. We have the virtual safe, right? What's the virtual safe?
Well, it's a place that where actually you can have all your financial accounts put in one place, and it will track spending. But here's the thing. The key with this is that most of us have kids. And if you're like me, I have 4 kids. And if one of mine, I'm saying my youngest, goes missing for
especially the youngest
at any length of time, I'm thinking, he's up to no good, right? I mean, that just doesn't go well when a 6-year-old is like unattended for 5 minutes or longer. Well, the same thing is true with our money. Do you think if you have accounts that you haven't looked at in a while, do you think that they're just performing like rock stars? Or maybe they're up to no good. Maybe they're coloring on the wall somewhere.
Yeah, the chances of them working to your behalf, on your behalf, without you being involved, not going to happen.
Well, there's a key. So if we have tools and strategies in order to help us keep more of the money we make, watch where it is, partner us with tax consultants who can actually put more money in our pocket. Now we avoid some of the mistakes that exist. So there's some podcasts that if you haven't listened to our podcast, you probably want to go to that will really highlight this cash flow area.
Right. It's called Here's a Mistake I'm Making, and I Bet You Are Too, inspired by the FIRE movement. It's all about overspending. Okay. Yes. Definitely listen to that. We also address debt, right. How to pay it off, how to change your thinking on debt. That's the debt dilemma.
Right.
Make sure to look that one up. And the last one, we talk about taxes a fair amount on this podcast, but this one in particular, you definitely need to listen to.
Why wealthier people pay less in tax. And by the way, this is a huge one that you need to be focused on because taxes are our largest expense, and there is something that we can do about it.
No doubt. All right, let's move on to number 2. Pillar number 2, life insurance.
Well,
life insurance.
Yeah, we didn't mention this on the front end, but if you really have never listened to our podcast and you want to understand more about what we do, we talked about the episode on emotional roller coaster as it relates to the stock market. Another one that's going to be around Dave Ramsey is wrong. And here's why. It is around this second pillar, which is life insurance, which is a place that you and I focus a lot with our own money and with our clients.
No doubt, no doubt. And it's not what you would think, right? When we think about life insurance, we think buy term, invest the difference. We think temporary insurance, but it's really a permanent problem, right? Death is going to happen, but probably not in the term that we've been given with this term policy.
Well, and here's a big issue and why we use life insurance. As you listen to some of the episodes, and we'll highlight those in a second, is that cash is a terrible place for us to reside any amount of our wealth in. As secondly, it's a terrible place for us to spend because as soon as that dollar is spent, it no longer can be growing on our behalf.
Earn nothing.
When would you want to stop compounding interest on your money, Joey?
The answer is never.
Never. But that is the way we're taught by the financial gurus, entertainers, whatever you want to call them. That's one of the biggest reasons why we say Dave Ramsey is wrong, is because of the way he focuses on cash. We want our money constantly at work, and we need to find better ways for it to reside in a more liquid format. We love liquidity.
That's
we
right.
Just hate cash.
Yeah. In fact, just to add a little bit more to that, if our dollar is doing one job, we need to question it. Right? If you put a dollar to work at a term policy, it can only do one thing. Yeah. It can only provide a death benefit if, in fact, you pass away within that time frame. But shouldn't our dollar be working harder?
Well, yeah. I mean, think about that. When we put money into savings accounts, for instance, just these a reserve, emergency reserve, we've all been told we need to have this, quote unquote, just fill in the blank times our, monthly expenses number away. Those dollars are literally rotting. When I say rotting, because they're becoming smaller. The cost of goods going up every single day, every single month. is making the purchasing power of those dollars worth less. So when we save money in a place that doesn't earn any interest, it starts to cost us big over time.
How many people have felt that way, right? How many people do you talk to, Russ, who have $100,000 sitting in a savings account and they're mad about it?
Well, here's the thing: if you're a business owner, we tend to keep large amounts of money in business retention accounts. We would call them retained earnings, and we're always, we're okay. I got to make sure I make payroll, because when we first started our business, a lot of times our businesses were struggling. There was times we were trying to figure out ways to make payroll. Maybe we had to borrow money to make payroll. So now, as we've become more successful, what do? We store large amounts of cash in these checking accounts, just so that way we never get in that position again. But think about how much that money cost us over our lifetime, sitting, earning nothing for us, but earning a lot for the bank in which it's positioned at.
That's right. When we use that money, or we keep it in there, in a savings account, we've lost all the opportunity it could have earned. And then when we use it, we lose the interest on the interest. That's the real cost.
So the solution to this is what, Joey?
The solution is what we have learned: infinite banking. Infinite Banking by Nelson Nash. He is the founder. He's one of our neighbors here in Birmingham. He was just by the office today. And he has taught us that uninterrupted growth on our money using specifically designed cash value life insurance will allow us to do both, or have our dollar do multiple jobs.
Well, it protects it. It's liquid, right? I mean, the millions of dollars our clients have used within these life insurance policies over the last 10 years is amazing. It gives us the safety of knowing that our dollar is not at risk in Wall Street. Actually, it's in the companies that are 150, 200 years old in some situations. But here's the key, is that we're going to want you to go listen to some of our top podcasts on this so that you can really understand how this pillar falls in. And one of the first ones I would point you to is the 5 steps to becoming your own banker.
Yeah, no doubt. That thing is foundational, and it will outline to you more reasons why we use this. The second is one of my favorites: opportunities find cash. When you've all of a sudden put your money in a place that is accessible and it is at your hands reach, you start having opportunities show up. Isn't that amazing?
Isn't this funny? We were just talking about the stock market and the emotional roller coaster that exists. And most people miss out on opportunities because they're in the market. And so they never sell when it's going up, and they never sell when it's going down. And there's these huge opportunities that they could take advantage of, but they don't. They pass on them. But for those who are utilizing these tools, these life insurance tools, they're sitting in cash. They never have to worry when there's an opportunity, should I borrow against these policies, because the policy is going to continue to grow uninterrupted regardless if they use it or not. So they take advantage, and Opportunities Find Cash is a great episode that shares that.
Okay, last but not least, this is, and it sounds kind of weird, but why you should not cancel your whole life policy is an epic episode, because it breaks down more the reasons that people would question you. Because guess what? If you hear this, you are in the minority of people that say, wow, this is actually something that could work for me. And you go talking about it to other people that have not listened to these things on the podcast, you're going to get told that you are a moron.
Yeah. Well, and this, again, most people think I should be doing what everyone else is doing.
Yes.
And that's a very common thought process that goes in our mind. So when we start doing something that everyone isn't doing, we start getting nervous. But just think about it. Do you want to be like the majority of people who are broke, or do you want to be like the minority of people who are successful, who are creating legacies for their families?
Okay, so let's pause a second to talk more about that. What is everybody else doing? They're playing the accumulation game, right? We've talked about that on the podcast.
What's my number, right?
Yeah, you're carrying around this big, crazy number, and everybody's is arbitrary, and it's big, and it's heavy, and all. I mean, I assume it's heavy in the commercials. I don't know. Maybe it's not. But they're playing that game.
When you think about it, it's rate of return, right? You get around the water cooler. How much did your 401k earn last week?
How much did it's strong to quite strong?
Yeah. How much did it lose? It's this thought process that rate of return. Well, no. Think about it. What's more important, the return on your money or the return of your money?
I'm going to go with of.
Yeah, exactly it is. And that's what financial independence really is about, is getting money flowing to us. So we're going to say that it's not accumulation that you should be seeking. It's passive income is greater than your monthly expenses.
Okay, passive income greater than monthly expenses. Sounds great, Russ. Where did we learn that from?
Well, Robert Kiyosaki is who I learned it from. I think that's who you learned it from.
That's
If
right.
you're not familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, he wrote some very famous books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is probably one of the more famous one. The cash flow quadrant is one that we talk about. We believe that utilizing the concept of getting money coming to us, so buying actual assets, he defines asset as anything that puts money in your pocket. So very easily you can determine what a liability is, anything that's taking money out of your pocket. And we actually went through and we did a podcast episode on the cash flow game in real life. That would be one that you should read.
Yeah, definitely listen to that. A cash flow game is a tool that he's provided to help people learn how money works. And we've played it before. It's a fantastic game. The second thing I would mention or point to is in light of this, of what everybody else is doing, is the accumulation game. We did an episode on that. Don't run out of money. Avoid the biggest pitfall, retirement. Definitely listen to that. It talks about distribution of your assets and how important that is. You have to start with the end in mind.
Well, it's important to know that the traditional Wall Street game actually in distribution time is one of the worst. And this is not just my thinking, that Wade Fowle, the credited income guru, retirement income guru out there, he's been on Market Watch, Fox News, all these different Wall Street based things. He says taking money specifically solely out of the market actually produces the least amount of income and actually passes the least amount to your heirs. So we need to find better strategies. And I think that podcast, Don't Run Out of Money, Avoid the Biggest Pitfall in Retirement, that's a huge episode that can explain what we're talking about.
Okay. But what we've been talking about so far, Russ, is really, it goes in line of a hierarchy, right? There's a step-by-step here that we've talked about. Cash flow leads then to life insurance as our safety, our reserve bucket. Now, explain how we came to that conclusion.
Well, if you ever took a psychology class in college, you probably somewhere along the way came across Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, I don't pretend to be a psychology major, and most of these things are way past me. But you do know that there's like this basic needs approach, right? We must meet this basic level of need before we will strongly desire to go to a higher level. And kind of he starts off with the psychological. He says that, we're going to seek out food as our first objective in life. That's going to be the first thing that we're going to fall and start looking for before we try to put a roof over our head, before we try to get into a relationship, before we try to seek a job and the esteem that goes along with that, or trying to maximize our potential or talents, as he would go up in his pyramid of charts with self-actualization at the top. Well, that makes so much sense that we would not seek, maximizing our talent as a podcaster, for instance, or as a real estate investor, or whatever it may be, before we actually have food that goes in our belly. Well, we think about that, though, as it relates to money. There should be a financial hierarchy of money, of wealth, of things that we should be seeking first before we move to the next step. And the basic level one of those is cash, is cash reserves, right? That's what we look at life insurance as, that cash value.
Think of that as a tier one capital. You've heard that terminology in various other financial the way banks think about capital. Tier one capital, it's their safest reserve money. That's where cash and cash value play in. That's why we talk about cash flow and life insurance first. Those things have to be taken care of before you ever consider stepping into business for yourself or into some other collateralized type of asset. So obviously tier one is those things. Tier two, we call those assets that you can control, okay? Things that you know about. Now, that's going to vary from person to person. So this isn't everybody should do my baby steps. I don't know where I got that name from. But, you have to step into what you know about And a lot of times that's your own business.
Well, and here's the thing. I think that's important. Some of you will work for somebody for the rest of your life, and it's because you love the job that you're in and you never see yourself moving out of that, and that's fine. But there's investments that you will make that maybe you do need to understand. You do need to educate yourself, and so you need to invest in yourself in that area. Listen to this podcast is one step. Watching videos that we create is another step. But the best place, the best asset that you can invest in is you. We consider that the tier 2 asset. That's the asset that you can most control, is the things that you can invest in, that you can impact. Well, step 3 or tier 3 assets we would believe would be collateralized assets. We're going to kind of talk about these as part of these other 5 pillars. So the first 2 pillars were cash flow and life insurance, because we believe those are tier 1 and tier 2 things. Those are things that are reserves and things that I can control. Now, when we start getting into what we would consider tier 3, which would be assets that are collateralized, we're going to start focusing on business, real estate, and lending. So let's talk about business real quick.
Okay. So first and foremost, businesses, we all get into business because we're really good at something, right? We're good, like a technician at doing something. But then what happens is we end up owning a job.
Yeah.
Right? The E-Myth talks about that book E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Robert Kiyosaki, he says in his cash flow quadrant, the S for self-employed also means solo. It means selfish. It also represents the person who ends up making a lot less money than the person who is employed, because they end up working 80, 100-hour weeks. They end up borrowing money to pay for the employees that they have in their business. And a lot of times they end up hating their job. So the key for us within a business is to create systems and processes so it makes money for us instead of us having to work for it.
Isn't that the reason why we got into business to begin with?
Yeah.
Right? We want to take advantage of the profits that are right there. When we work for somebody else, we know we're adding more value to that business than what we're getting paid. And so we're like, man, I might as well go into business for myself. But then we end up doing all the same things and acting like an employee. So we want to bring some tools to that, right? Well, we don't pretend to be the guys that are like the business coach, right?
No, but we bring business coaches to the table. We have coaches that are coming on this podcast. You can go listen to them that actually share great value right here on the podcast. But we also partner our clients with them because we believe that's a tool. We know that we need to have great people. The way our business is going to be successful is not only we're investing in ourselves, but we're investing in the people that we're working with. Because the people that you work with, you see them more than you see your family. And it's important that we are investing in those people so that they can help us achieve our objectives. And there's strategies that we do use with Wealth Without Wall Street that can help us not only recruit, but retain those top employees as well.
That's right. So we help create those things. We help with buy-sell agreements, when you're in a partnership or what have you. We also help people systematize their finances. Like, I want to point out the podcast we did on Profit First with Mike McAllowitz. It's huge. Yeah. Any business owner needs to listen. Stop what you're doing and listen to that right away.
Profit First is a huge one. How to keep top employees without paying them anymore. We went through a great strategy that we actually use in one of the businesses that I own, the 10X Mind Expander, and the one we did with Matt White on Culture Index.
Yes, that's a prime example of making the right hires and investing in your team. Got to do that for sure. Okay, fourth pillar, real estate.
Real estate is an easy one for us, as you see, as an asset under that tier 3 collateralized assets. You know, if we own a business, a lot of times we have assets that we could go borrow money against. If we have real estate, that's something that's a collateralized asset. That's what we talk about when we talk about assets that we own that can be used as collateral, things that can allow us to use it to make more assets. Real estate is a really easy one, except a lot of mistakes get made around real estate.
Oh, the biggest one, probably the biggest, is when people don't understand that they're not buying for the accumulation factor. They're appreciation factor. I just used the wrong word. But they're buying for cash flow. If they buy for appreciation, they've lost. Right. You know anybody like that, Russ?
Oh, man, that was a little low blow. You kicked me underneath the table. If you haven't listened to our podcast before, you probably didn't hear me talk about what a bad mistake I did when I bought real estate at the end of 2007. Shocking. I was up there buying when the real estate was going up. Remember I was saying the emotional roller coaster that exists with the market. And I did not know what I was doing. I was not an educated investor. I was following the hype. I needed real estate. I went and bought a property that was selling at the time for $85,000, but had another property that was selling at $120,000. And I thought, man, this is a no-brainer. So did I buy for cash flow? No, I bought for appreciation.
Yep. Bom, bom, bom. Bad news.
Yeah. 11 years later, I am now I have contract to close it. After paying realtor fees, I will sell it and bring in $85,000 total. I paid $85,000. I'm selling it for $85,000.
Man, you should get an award or like a medal after that.
Yeah, that is not the way to buy real estate. And it comes back to we need to understand more about ourselves. So there's tools that we actually use with our clients that we coach on that can help you figure out, are you a good real estate investor? Meaning, like, are you well suited to do the things on your own? Or should you be seeking out somebody to do turnkey things like the episode that we did with, say, Spartan Invest?
That's right. Lindsay Davis did an awesome job explaining how that works for you. But if you're more hands-on, you might want to check out the one we did with Mark Podolsky, Flipping Land, Not Houses. Now, that takes a little bit more work and more effort on your part, actually a lot of it at the beginning. But it could be a huge way to create passive income.
And if you have education or you want education, I would send you toward Brian Tripp in the episode that we did with him. And he did an episode that was really funny. He said this expert says, don't buy real estate. And what he was referring to is that in the market cycle that we were at the end of 2018, there may be better options than buying the real estate. There may be other ways to stay in and around it. So either way, if you're dealing with real estate, the key is education, learning more about what you're doing, and determining, are you a good fit for it, or should you be looking toward maybe something like lending, which is our fifth pillar?
That's right. Now, why in the world is lending important? It's because the most successful financial institutions in the world make their living on lending. We're talking about banks.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to emulate a bank? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't have a water fountain in front of my house. I don't have the marble floors, right? I mean, I don't have these highly paid, or at least their titles are high, all these people working in and around the business, right? You can know that a bank is successful just by seeking out what is the best and the tallest and the nicest of buildings in your town. Well, how can we do the same thing? Well, we may want to emulate what they're doing and find out how we can be in the lending business.
Well, let me just stop for a minute. How much have you actually paid in interest over your lifetime to this date?
Don't make me think about that, Joey. That's a big number.
Come on. your family, your business continue to just stack up the dollars, the interest. That, and let me just get you started here.
Kicking me.
Are you in a lending relationship right now that you don't even realize that you're in with the government? Okay. Now, this is not what we focus all of our time and attention on, but if you're in a qualified plan, a 401k, an IRA, some form of a 529 plan, you are in a lending relationship. Do you realize that?
Well, most people don't, because they don't think about the fact that they don't know what the rate is on the taxes that they're deferring. They don't know how long it's going to take for them to get all their money back. But that is what is key in a lending relationship. You got to know the rate. You got to know when you got to pay it back. And those are big fundamental things. What I would believe for us to see, like what you were talking about a second ago, is you were kicking me, asking how much interest have I paid? How much interest have my family paid? Is what would that interest be worth, though? And what will it be worth in the future had I been able to keep it all and have it all paid back to me and my family?
Right. We want you to understand what is the lack of control that you've introduced into your family or your business by having other people finance everything. And what kind of other things are you introducing that you just didn't even realize were there? You know, you need to take back this banking function. For you, yourself, your family, your business. And just the other day, you were telling me about one of your clients, Russ, who is going ahead and taking advantage of this.
Well, I mean, it's fun in the business that we're in, kind of tying everything back to those first two pillars, right? Cash flow, life insurance, how we use those things, not only within our businesses, within purchasing real estate, but yeah, they're in a partnership relationship, and they were saying, hey, we got an opportunity to buy a piece of equipment somewhere around $50,000. Should we lend that money to our business to buy it and have our business and our partners pay us back this pretty decent rate of interest? It's like, absolutely. Is there any risk in a business that you're already owning and operating, and to be able to double the rate of return on your money just by setting it up? It's a really cool thing. And that's what we've been able to see. So there's lots of episodes we've done on this. One was the greatest overlooked passive income opportunity, family banking. Go listen to that one.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. The other one I would point out is how to create business opportunities and generational wealth through infinite banking. This was Dr. Jimbo Smith. What an awesome episode. Just his own personal experience, how he's doing this within his business, within his family. Really, really, really
taking it to new levels where he's sharing and actually having summits with his family down at the beach once a year to be able to show them what's going on with their policies and how they're borrowing money and increasing the family's wealth. Last one, I would say, is the private lending story that we did, which was a really funny one. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that one, you know anything about the stallion. This is a great one that early on we thought there may be some lessons learned on this one.
Yep, good and bad. So let me know what your thoughts are after listening to that. But at the end of the day, these are the 5 pillars that we hope you'll take and you will implement yourself to go from living this kind of scarce mindset. It's based out of fear,
right,
and moving towards abundance, moving towards a place where you have less anxiety, less fear.
Yeah. We don't want to have the ups and downs. And I see that as we have been doing this for a number of years, that the clients who are implementing these 5 pillars in their life, and not all 5 pillars are being implemented, right? Sometimes it's just those top 2 combined with one of the bottom 3, whether, some love businesses, some love real estate, some do lending, some do combinations of all of them. But the key is working hand in hand with them over the last, how many years, what it's been 10 years since we've been doing this. It's been really cool to see the transformation that's happened to where Wall Street is no longer a part of the game. It's funny when people are like, oh, the market was down 10% yesterday. I'm like, it was? That's cool.
News
That's
to
the
me.
response.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So we have covered a lot today. You got some homework to do, right? To go back and listen to some of these episodes that you may have missed or you may be just introduced to the first time. But here's what we want to do. We want to invite you to reach out to us. That's something that we're offering to you as a result of this podcast. You can go to freecall.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com and set up a 15-minute call with somebody on our team, and we will be glad to walk you through this just to see if we're a good fit to work for you and with you. So don't hesitate to do that. freecall.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. Hope today has been helpful, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.